Welcome back to another episode of Awkward Insurance, the insurance podcast where anything awkward flies. I'm your host, Dustyne Bryant. March marks an anniversary of my time here at the National Alliance. This episode explores taking leaps of faith toward the next big step in your career. Our guest today is the National Alliance's very own Kelly Surles. Kelly is the perfect guest for this conversation because she unknowingly played a part in giving me the courage to take my next big step. Listen in as Kelly learns what an important role she played. I hope you enjoy it. I am very excited and also a little nervous to have this conversation today, this chit chat. I have with me Kelly Surles, CIC, CISR, CPRM, ABCDEFG. Thank you, Kelly, for joining me today.
Thank you, Dustin. I am nervous as well. This is going to be fun.
So Kelly and I are teammates at the National Alliance, and I have wanted to get together with her for this podcast because it's coming up on 1 year of being at the National Alliance. So Kelly, you previously held the position that I have, the Personal Lines Academic Director, and I want to talk to you about the leaps of faith in our career path between the two of us. Because as a young account manager, not really knowing what an insurance career was, I didn't know what my goals and aspirations could look like. And it took several years for me to even start setting goals in my career. And I don't think that I am unique. But the only goal I had for a long time, as far as my career path went, was just being 110% committed to everything that I did and being the best version of whatever my job was. And it wasn't just insurance, it was whatever came before insurance. Because it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to be when I grow up. And I still am not 100% certain of what I want to be when I grow up. But you know how there are events in life where there's a before and an after? I mean, besides death.
Yes.
Just checking the mic. Mike, are you there?
I'm still here. I'm intently listening.
Okay. Well, where your memories have suddenly divided, and you can use that moment in your life to help you remember by saying, no, that was before I did this or after I did that. Have you heard the word pivot used a lot in the last year?
Yes.
Okay, every time I hear that word, I think of the episode from Friends and Ross. And is it Chandler or Joey that's helping him with that couch going up the steps? And he's
Pivot,
like,
pivot.
Yes.
That's how we feel some days, not only in the insurance business, but here at the National Alliance, right? It's always changing, and we're always trying to go up the stairs with that couch together. Pivot! Pivot!
What is the proverbial couch in everybody's life these days? Holy cow. So my kids, their school system, they use it a lot. And just recently with the apocalyptic snow that hit the southern states, Northerners, I don't want to hear you talk bad about it, but the apocalyptic snow that hit the southern states, the schools shut down whatever in-person teaching they were doing and, posted on Facebook, pivot. And every time I saw it, I posted a meme from Friends and just, because there was nothing else I could do. So, professionally, I have 3 pivotal moments in my career, and I'll break those down in just a little bit. But Kelly, I want to know, what are some pivotal moments for you in your career that really maybe was a moment where you said, this is my career, this is what I'm going to do, or there was a before and after? There was, whether it was in this career or not, but there was a before and after, what you did before and now what your goals are after.
That's a great question, great topic. And when we started the podcast and you told me you might be asking me something, I started started thinking about career, but you brought something up like before you got into insurance. What was pivotal to really get you into insurance? Because I've always said I was born and bred for this because my dad was in insurance. And so I always felt like I was just meant to be here. But there was a time when I didn't want to be like dad. And so I was venturing out, trying to figure out other things, right? And so I decided I wanted to go into education and was in college part time and working full time at an extended, like after school care program. And I was 19 years old, had 17 kids under me. I was just feeling
I was
large
like,
and
whoa,
in
wait a second. You
charge.
were 19 years old with 17 kids. Kelly, there's a problem.
Well, this was a pivotal moment because we had a cooking project that we had to do, and it was a no bake cooking project. And so, distribution center sent over all of these materials, and we were doing this project. Within like 2 hours of us eating these cookies, I had all of my kids were sick, and I was sick. And
Oh, Lord.
long story short, we all ended up in the emergency room. And that was a pivotal moment where I decided I did not want that much responsibility of that many children underneath me. And teaching was just not an option for me any longer. But risk management was because
Where was the risk management before you made the cookies? Hindsight's always 2020, right?
that after school care program no longer does cooking projects. So essentially, that was the day I became a risk manager because that was the day the risk management rules all went into place for that facility. So yeah, I would say that was a pivotal moment when I decided education and nursing were not going to be two options for me, and risk management might be a better option.
Have you ever had a moment in your career where you realized that the rules that management came up with were because of you?
That was one of them.
No, no making cookies
No making cookies.
is is now in their employee handbook.
Well, it's a great story because for every company party, for every potluck, I was always in charge of bringing plates and napkins. Nobody wanted me cooking anything, so it worked out great for my entire career.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I have three pivotal moments. So one of my before and afters leads to the second before and afters in terms of these pivots. One was ineffective leadership that stirred in me as a young person what it was I was going to expect out of myself and out of anybody that was in my life. So I wholeheartedly believe that your work life and your personal life don't have to be two separate things. There's a lot of times where people will say, leave your work at home, leave your personal life at home. And that's just not possible. We're human. So this ineffective leadership pivotal moment was the very first time that sparked in me as a young person, as a new mother, even that I needed to have expectations about how those two were going to work together. And so that led me to my next pivotal moment, which was joining Brown and Brown here in Arkansas. It was the deciding factor in accepting insurance as my career. I had already been in insurance for, I think it was somewhere between 5 and 7 years at that point. I still had not accepted insurance as my career, really. It was still just a job. I didn't know what goals I had or could have and how to even make those. So going to Brown and Brown was fixing that problem of ineffective leadership for me. And it also granted me an opportunity of growth. And I didn't know then that my career path would be made whole. And it's such, when I thought about this podcast today, I did a lot of going back 1 year. That's all I had to do was go back 1 year to really revisit all of the feels in my body for the last year. And it's been an emotional journey just to even go back that far. About 3 weeks ago, I posted something on my LinkedIn page that was originally posted to my private social media pages, and it was a piece of paper out of a fortune cookie. And it's crazy how something so small with vague, ambiguous numbers on the back that I still don't know what they mean. I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be lucky numbers if you play the Powerball or something, but it's crazy how that one little piece of paper out of every big decision that I had to make between January 2020 and March 2020 all broke on a piece of paper. But the process of what happened in coming to the National Alliance, which was my next pivotal moment. It wasn't coming to the National Alliance, it was the decision process, which is why I wanted to have this chit chat with you today, because you were a part of the decision making process.
You're going to make me cry.
And I know there were so many tears. There were so many discussions of weighing the pros and cons. So I had conversations with Mitch Dumford and Bob Rogers that I on a phone interview that I didn't realize was a phone interview. But I was just talking about insurance and enjoying every second. And then they invited me to Austin to see prototypes of insurance curriculums. So when I first told Tim about this opportunity at the National Alliance, I remember his face. And I told him what it was and how it happened and that I needed to go to Austin. And his only response was to say, you have to go. And if you don't, you'll regret it. And you'll always wonder what if. And then he did what I never expected him to do. He didn't want to talk about it then. He said, we'll talk about it when you get back. That was what started the pivot for me. The unconditional support, without hesitation, without, anything that would cloud my judgment. He had every opportunity to cloud my judgment and start the seeds of doubt right then. But he didn't, because that's not who he is. And he is the epitome of effective leadership and mentorship for me. And Kelly, so I didn't know you before it all happened. And I can't remember who reached out to whom and who connected to whom on LinkedIn first. But you emailed me a couple of ISO forms ahead of me coming to the National Alliance and some personal auto National Alliance material to review. And you said, we've got something to talk about when you get here. Challenge accepted, right? But I didn't know what I was doing with these forms. There really wasn't a very clear direction, but you wanted to discuss it when I came to Austin. So I met the entire academic team when I came to Austin. I met Mitch and Bob and Mandy, Sarah, and Paul, and I'm pretty sure they tried to scare me out of my wit. I remember feeling like I was on the hot seat, sitting in the middle of the main building of the National Alliance. And then I went to lunch with Will and the whole team. And I was the most business dressed I could be, because I had to make the impression, right? 3-inch heels that were killing my feet. And for the first time that I met Will, he was in a zip-up hoodie and jeans. And I remember thinking, and when I think back on it, I think that was the very first time I could breathe all day long, because there was no way I was going to be nervous around a CEO dressed in a zip-up hoodie and jeans. So I think it was at that moment that I came back down to earth, from my cloud 9 high of being at the Taj Mahal of insurance, And we went to lunch, and it was pretty nerve-wracking. But at the end of the tour, I went back to my hotel room and I was crying because I couldn't believe where I was and who I had just met. I never saw myself, when I thought about the National Alliance and what the building would be. When I say the Taj Mahal, I really thought it was going to be like a Taj Mahal. And I swear to God, if Dr. Holt had actually been there that day, I probably would have self-imploded. So it was a good thing he wasn't there, because there was just so much to take in all at once. The maroon carpet and everything. I was sold. So, but when I went back to Arkansas, I started processing, and I remember sitting in the parking lot of my son's day school, and I texted you, and you said, "Can I call you?" And I was trying to weigh what to do, and you called me up and asked me if I was a woman of faith. And then you proceeded to minister to me about decisions and making decisions, and how you came to make your decision for coming to the National Alliance as well. And I think that was the very first seed that was planted, that I would have a work family at the National Alliance. And that was one thing that I could check off my list of fears. Out of all the fears, all the pros and cons, out of all the fears, that was probably my biggest. because Brown and Brown is my family. But you were a seed of faith. That's why I say the decision about coming to the National Alliance was a pivotal moment, not coming to the National Alliance. But the final straw was when I ordered food for lunch at our favorite little Asian cafe just down the road. And I ordered sesame chicken. Rosemary ordered sesame chicken. Cheryl ordered Szechuan chicken. And Tim, I think for the first time, ordered something that he had seen somewhere else, and it was chicken and green beans or something like that. But everybody felt something. Nobody knew about it yet. It was just between me and Tim at that point, but everybody felt something. So it was really quiet. So I had the fortune cookie and I didn't eat it that day. It was still really hard to process, so I needed to get back to my work and get lost in work. But then a couple of days later, I got an email from the National Alliance, and this stupid little fortune cookie still sitting on my desk, and I opened it up, and that fortune cookie said, "Real courage is moving forward when the outcome is uncertain." Real courage is moving forward when the outcome is uncertain. And I immediately called my longtime friend and coworker, Rosemary, into my office and showed it to her. And her only words, why are words so effective and profound? But her only words to me were, "Dustin." That was it. The tears that have stained my cheeks forever in coming to the National Alliance are some of the most pivotal tears in my entire life. And it changed my perspective on what could be achieved when you have the right support system in place. But it not only changed my perspective of my professional life, it changed everything in my personal life too. I don't think you knew at the time that you were accepting a text messages from this unknown person that you had no idea how weird and awkward I was, that
It's so
you
similar to
were
me.
that you were the seed that started some really, I hate to keep saying the word pivotal,
Pivot.
pivotal, pivotal decisions in somebody's career. And that is one of the messages that I want to get out with this podcast today, is that everybody never knows when they're going to be somebody's seed or somebody's pivot. And everybody needs to know that they have the opportunity to do that for someone. And coming to the National Alliance, now my next goal is to be like Kelly and be somebody's seed, to be that one factor that removes the fear from somebody to make the next big step.
The irony is not lost on me that when I poured my cup of tea this morning, right before this podcast, that what's on top of this is a seed on my mug,
Wow.
and it's a mustard seed. And when I asked you that day if you were a woman of faith, the scripture that was there was in Matthew, and forgive me for not knowing the actual scripture, but it's talking about when you have a mustard seed, all you need is a mustard seed of faith.
Yeah.
Um, so, leap of faith is what brought me here to the National Alliance. So, to be able to pass that on and offer that same seed unknowingly, but it's the same way that I came here. You go through that same wrestling of you're about to change everything you know and everything that you have known for your entire career, and it's about to change. So this the seed planting, and then the fact that you go and get sesame chicken and all I could hear was sesame seed, like it's just everything there. Yeah, I mean, pivotal moments. There's that seed plant. Thank you for this, Dustin, because it was scary for me to even leave the academic director position because I felt so strongly that that's where I was being led when I came here to the National Alliance. But then to move into the new position that I'm in, where I'm working with corporate accounts and still being able to meet you and just to see the faith that we both had to be able to be put into a position where we both experienced such growth from two different seeds planted. And it's just beautiful. I've enjoyed the last year working with you. Uh, I can't wait to see everything that you do, everything that we do together.
Yeah, I love that there is the mustard seed on your cup. I can see it in our video right now. All the feels, and I want to take it back to the very beginning, given me the confidence in my professional path. And it all started with the National Alliance. The confidence that education gives you, even if it's not a formal education, even if it's, for lack of a better term, street education. Not saying that National Alliance is street education, but the people that you come across daily when you go to a seminar somewhere or you go to a marketing event somewhere. That's all street education, that you're absorbing the environment, you're networking with the people in that environment. You get street education with the National Alliance too, when you get to go to the classroom setting and start networking with other people at the break, and you get to meet them and see where they started and where they're going, what their goals are, and it helps you start to gain perspective on what you might want your goals to look like, or at least opens up the possibilities of how you can set your goals. And so education builds confidence, and you've got all those fancy letters behind your name too. The alphabet soup of the National Alliance going on over
I
here.
love it. I'm working on my CRM. It's coming. It's coming.
But now that you're not in an agency and you're working on the corporate side of things, how does that education help you in what you do today?
Oh, it gives me a passion and something to speak about, and gives me my story because the National Alliance was where my education started. I mean, yes, I was going to school part time, but once I moved over into an insurance office, I stopped going to college. And the National Alliance became my college for 15 years. And then when I decided it was time to go and get a degree, there were no risk management or insurance degrees at any universities close to Austin, where I'm at. So when I went to go talk to an advisor, they said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to stay in insurance, but you don't have an insurance degree." "Well, what do you want to do in insurance?" "I want to train and I want to educate and I want to show my passion." And so to even go to school and get that kind of education, an adult curriculum education and things like that, and to see how that all plays out coming back here to the National Alliance where I can give back. So I always used my designations and those letters behind my name as my education because throughout those 15 years, every time I would go on a job interview or talk to somebody about advancing my career, I always heard the same thing. You don't have a college education. You don't have a college degree. My first line of defense was, but I have these designations. And that was my line of confidence. The education that the National Alliance has given me, not only through the designations, but the dynamics of service and dynamics of sales classes. Like you said, you take that all in. It is your street education. You take it all in. And I always said I'm perfecting my craft and would just learn and learn and learn. And now that there's hashtags, my hashtag always became always be learning, hashtag always be learning. And to be able to see how the designations and education that the National Alliance has given me, how I can actually give that back and now have a college degree to put on top of that, the confidence level is, yeah, you feel like you can walk into anywhere and say, let me tell you about what we're doing here. Let me tell you about how the National Alliance and these classes helped me in my career, what I learned, what I took from these classes, and was able to give back, not just even in those classes. Because when you're sitting in a classroom and you're sitting next to a peer, you're giving your daily. Well, I had this client that had this kind of scenario, and you're able to have those kinds of conversations and throw things out that some people in another state have never heard of. You're always learning, but you're always teaching at the same time. And that's what we do as insurance professionals. We're teaching our clients. And that's what I started doing, and why I loved teaching it so much was I wanted to learn as much as I could. And when my clients had a question, I wanted them to know why. Why did you buy this from me? Why did I tell you that this is going to be the best coverage for you? And it was always the best when I would explain it to them. They would reluctantly purchase whatever endorsement I was offering them. And then they would have a claim. And they would call back and say, I knew what to do. And I knew what coverage was available. And because you took the time to actually teach it to me, like I knew what to do. And I didn't really need to call you except for, hey, remember that endorsement you sold me 2 years ago? Unfortunately, I need it.
Right.
That was always the most fulfilling part of my career, when I could not
Absolutely.
only teach a peer, but teach my clients as well.
Right. I think that's probably the same for me as some of the most fulfilling times in being an active agent and customer service representative is when that claim came through and the right coverage was there. That's what it's all there for. The client doesn't pay their insurance to not have insurance.
Nope.
And so being able, but not only that, the icing on the cake for that particular factor is the client knowing that they have the coverage and not being surprised by it. That, it's one thing for them to be surprised by it and you go, yeah, I did that, and you didn't even know. But it's a whole nother thing for your client to understand that they already knew they had the coverage because you helped them understand their coverage. And that it's not something that you then celebrate like, yeah, I did that. It's like, nope, we did that together. You and me as your advisor, you as my client, you accepted me and trusted me. And so we're working this together as a team. That's way more gratifying than surprising somebody with coverage, in my
Yes.
opinion. So, this whole year, as we're reflecting on a year at the National Alliance, for me, it's been a year of challenges, man. I am not going to sing praises of COVID, but I am going to sing praises of opportunities. That even when challenges are presented, challenges pivot into opportunities if you allow them to. And it's all based on your perspective. If you continue to see them as challenges, they're going to be challenges. If you pivot them, that word again, if you pivot them from challenges to opportunities, then they'll become opportunities. I'm a communicator, and in many, many ways, I'm an over communicator. And 99% of the time, I'm going to say or do something to stick my foot in my mouth, and it'll come around to bite me later. So, communication is a huge thing for me, even if that communication is raw communication. Sometimes people will look at relationships and go, "Oh, they've got a great relationship. They're great best friends, or whatever." But nobody ever acknowledges the tough stuff behind those relationships, and that you have to work through the tough stuff. And you and I haven't always seen eye to eye. I'm pretty sure that we've almost tried to kill each other at least once.
A little
No,
bit.
verbally accost each other at least once. But the thing is what's great about it is that you're a great communicator, and you're wholly open to somebody disagreeing with you and then working out those differences in order to improve that relationship. And that's another step in making leaps of faith, in making decisions that matter. Because if you always hide behind, trying to impress or trying to be perfect, if you will, there's no growth in that. Being honest and accepting yourself for who you are, that you're not going to be perfect and say the most perfect thing all the time. And Will in particular has wholly accepted that about me. but I am
He's
not.
accepted that about all of us, my friend.
Well, so I projected
It's
that
funny
onto
you say
me.
that. Well, it's funny you say that because when you're sitting here talking about the communication, and Kelly, you're such a great communicator, all that rings in my head is, how different you and I really are when it comes to communication. Because that's how we've been trained to be. When you talk about how we communicate with our clients, right? You give the insuring agreement, then you give all of the limitations and exclusions. Like you want everybody to know every bit and every bullet point of that policy so they know what they're purchasing, right?
So,
So
okay.
I'm going to give you all of me with every limitation, every exclusion, the agreement, and then I'm going to throw it out and you go ahead and then you can decide if you want to buy it.
Kelly is a policy. What is your insuring agreement? By purchasing
You
it.
get what you get.
Oh, Kelly, thank you so much for being on this podcast with me today. I was really looking forward to it. I too was nervous about it as well. I hope that you're at ease now towards the end of it.
I am.
Um,
I am. Thank you for
you're
this.
very welcome. I have some fun cards on my desk before we go. And then I'll ask you another question just before we leave. If your house was on fire, which two items would you grab?
My Bible and
Your insurance policy, Kelly.
which two items would I grab? So my Bible and I think that I mean just the Bible, really. I mean maybe some shoes.
You know what they say, never get caught by a paramedic without the right pair of shoes. No,
What's
I'm
the
kidding.
scripture? Naked and
Oh
afraid.
my gosh.
How much time do we have? Because I have a question for you, actually. What was it like now that you're not an agent? You're not like in the trenches, right? What was it like for your first storm? That was I have to use the word because, and I'm going to answer before you do. It was a pivotal moment for me. The first storm that rolled through, living here in Texas, we've got tornadoes, everything, right? But the first one to just be able to sit and enjoy watching a storm roll
Did
through.
you
You
enjoy
don't
it?
realize I did because for the first time in 20 years, there wasn't any kind of trauma associated with it. And I think anybody that's done enough claims and worked enough cat losses or just a large loss within their state,
You know,
being removed from that and just being able to watch and not have to worry about did I bind? How many claim calls am I going to have tomorrow? What's the desk going to look like tomorrow? Because there's this level of anxiety that goes with it, right? Like it was a pivotal moment. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much trauma and anxiety that really causes. And I don't know. I wonder if you experience the same thing.
I think that might be one area where you and I differ in our personalities. I am triggered by emergencies. And by triggered, I mean, man, I want to go. I need to help. I need to do something. So,
Right.
the very first one for me is probably this snowstorm that just happened. And, you know, there's a couple things going through my head right now. It starts with COVID and how stuck in my pity party I was at the beginning of COVID. What do you mean the kids aren't going back to school? What do you mean it's closed for 2 weeks? What do you mean it's closed for another month? How am I supposed to work with my kids at home? That I wasn't triaging the the emergency that was happening there. I was stuck in my own little pity party. And that evolved into doing something about it. So it's time to stop with the pity party and making everyone around me feel bad for being stuck in this house with me. Because how selfish is that? that, it's time to start making a plan. It's time to start managing these risks. It's time to start, writing an insurance policy on this. No. So the very first storm that came through was this winter storm that the southern states went through. And I started it again. I started this, actually, it started out with me feeling like a kid. Oh, yay, snow is coming. I'm so excited. So I'm excited. And I think everybody was too. And then you start this cycle of what can I complain about? If you know what I mean. You start this, oh, how is my day being inconvenient? And it just takes a couple of times of doing that before something kicks you in the teeth and goes, you really don't have it that bad. You need to shut up now. Team members in Texas didn't have electricity, and then pipes are rupturing, and then it wasn't just rolling blackouts, it was like complete power loss and then water loss. And there came a moment where, you know, it was like I felt helpless. I felt totally and utterly helpless that I wasn't enjoying the snow because I'm sitting here watching these messages come through that we don't have power. We haven't had power for 8 hours. I don't have water. Look at this picture. There's ice coming through the ceiling, and it was so hard. Of course, you had the fun with the risk management part of it. And there was a car that was stuck out behind my house, and, watching the boys try and pull that sucker out of the ditch was a grand adventure. But, we even here in Arkansas, we lost power for rolling blackouts, but my pipes never froze. My power came back on. Our house stayed warm, even when the power was off. We gained an upstairs neighbor. The squirrel moved into the attic. um, so I just felt helpless. And it was the next day after our snow went away here in Arkansas and stuff started melting that Tim called me from my office in Little Rock. He called me. He's like, hey, how's it going? I felt helpless again. I couldn't be like, hey, Tim, what do you need? Let me come into the office and I'll help answer phones. I couldn't help in any way. All I could do was listen. So I don't know. The very first time I think it was probably more traumatic for me because I couldn't jump. I was bound. My hands were tied.
Well, this ice storm definitely put it into a different
Yeah.
perspective of that kind of catastrophic loss of not being able to help for
Yeah.
sure.
That's what I want to do.
Because
I
I
mean,
was
even
very
with the
lucky.
smallest losses, a
Yep.
little hailstorm comes through. Man, claims day was the best for me. I'm going to file your claim. I'm going to get you in touch with your adjuster. I'm going to call you 2 days later and ask you how it's going. When you start to get your roof replaced, I'm going to make sure that the adjuster's communicating with you. When they're off by however many squares, we're going to talk about that. And, I had a plan. I had a systematic plan of how to help. So claims were always, yeah, they were always fun for me because that's when the rubber meets the road right there.
That's when you get to shine and show what you were really made of. It's just an interesting perspective of not being able to be in the trenches
Yep.
anymore.
Yep. Thank you for that question. That was a very interesting question. So, before we go, is there anything else that you would like to say? Any soapboxes that you have? Give Kelly a moment to have the floor here.
Oh, goodness. You do such a phenomenal job in our podcast, and you're such a welcome team member here at the National Alliance. And it's been an absolute pleasure the last year learning from you, getting to know you, and finding commonality in being an insurance nerd and meeting you. I didn't realize there were other people like me out there. And I really want to take a moment really to thank the National Alliance. And I think we should both do that just because for both of us, the National Alliance has really given us so much in our careers. And Dr. Hold and what he has done with the National Alliance. And you just don't realize everything that Dr.
Yeah.
Holt has done for our industry and just for us as individuals. It's been an amazing journey, and I'm looking forward to many, many more years here with you and with the National Alliance.
I wholly agree with you on that. So I think that's the most resounding message that I wanted out of this is for anybody who's listening to know that places like the National Alliance help you understand and find those possibilities. So you're right. It is for you and me, everything's possible through the National Alliance.
There's always somebody pushing that couch yelling, pivot,
Pivot!
pivot.
Kelly.
Thanks, Dustin. This has been great.
That's it for this episode of Awkward Insurance. Man, if you are on the fence about starting a National Alliance designation, there is no better time than the present. The knowledge you receive from these programs gives you the confidence to advance your career and achieve your goals. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. To keep up with our future episodes and check out all of the other fantastic content we offer, head over to our website, SCIC.com. As always, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on Awkward Insurance. Toodles!